See what happens when we create a little trilogy, a little tripod. There was a seeker who was with a great master for some years. One day he went to his master and he said, "Master, I have a dilemma. My father lives on the other side of the great lake and he's dying. But the ferryman is ill and unable to take me across." The master looked at him and said, "Have no concerns, my son." And with that, the master took up a leaf from the ground and wrote with his fingernail on the leaf, folding it carefully and handing it to the seeker. And he said, "Take this and make your way." Clutching the folded leaf carefully in his hand, the seeker walked effortlessly across the surface of the lake. But he could not help but wonder, what was it that his master had written that could cause this miracle? And so, pausing a moment, he unfolded the leaf and, thinking to himself, "Oh, it's only the name of Rama," the seeker sank into the deep depths of the water of the lake. And then there's the story of another seeker who had been with his master for many decades. And he went to his master and he said, "Master, I've been with you for so long. Surely I am worthy now to learn the greatest name." Now we know that knowing the greatest name brings with it the siddhis, the powers of creation. But the master looked at the seeker and said, "Yes, but first you must pass a test." And with that, the master brought a small box and he handed it to the seeker and he said, "Please, would you take this box unopened to my friend, Master So-and-so, who lives in the next province." So, taking the box, the seeker went off on the path that led to the next province. But all along the way, he could not help but wonder what it was that was inside the box. And eventually he could not help himself. He stopped and opened its lid, and out of the box jumped a small mouse, and immediately it ran away. Now the seeker finished his journey, but as soon as he came into the presence of the master, without saying a word or even handing him the box, the master looked at him and said, "How can you be trusted with the most great name when you cannot even be obedient to your master?" The third story is the story of a young man whose parents died, leaving him an orphan. He had no friends. No maiden would even consider marrying him. He had no land. All he had in his possession was a cutlass and a spade. And he decided that the only thing that he could do was to go and seek a place where he might sow some seeds, find a piece of land. So he set out into the forest. But he knew the fringes of the forest well. He knew there was no arable land or even land that could be cleared there. So he had to go deeper, deeper into the forest. But after the trek into the forest, he sat down under a tree and felt the pangs of hunger in his stomach, gnawing at him. So getting up, he started to forage around, looking for some roots, some fruit, to satiate the hunger pangs. And this led him to a place where he found an old woman. And after the usual greeting, the old woman said to him, "Who are you?" And the young man said, "I'm an orphan. I am bereft. I have nothing. Give me your cutlass and your spade," said the old woman. So the young man handed these over to her. And then she said, "Turn around and take off your clothes." So the young man turned around, taking off his ragged singlet, his straw sandals, and his loincloth. He stood naked, and in that moment he found himself in a strange place, a place where he'd never been or even imagined before. And people came to greet him. And after the great welcome, they even took him and crowned him as king. And after his coronation, the leading advisor of that place led him around the palace, taking him from room to room to room, showing him the wonders of this place. And then they came to a door, and the advisor said, "This is a sacred door, and you must not open this door." Now, the young man, now a king, had a good life. He had wives and offspring. He had all that could be imagined and more. But something nagged at him. What is it that's behind that sacred door? And day after day after day, he wandered the palace, hardly noticing the treasures that he had, because he wanted to know what was behind that door. So he plotted and planned, because coming soon was a festival in which all the people of that place gathered to feast and imbibe. And so he decided that after this feasting was the time. After all, he was king. Shouldn't he be allowed to go into sacred places? So after the feasting was over, and all the people were tired and a little inebriated from their drinking, the place was quiet. Everyone had fallen asleep, except our king, who wandered the passageways of his palace, convincing himself, now, I am king, I deserve to know. And so he went to the sacred door, and he opened it and passed through. Suddenly he found the cool air on his naked skin, and there sitting was the old woman who handed back to him silently his cutlass and his spade. Question that might arise is, what would you have done? And how do these other stories impact, contribute to, mix with, to bring that alchemical process that allows to arise in us an answer, awareness, understanding. What would you do?
And all three levels of our mind is the master, the assistant, the one that gets us through places. But it seems that there's part of our self-mind that we have to watch all the time, otherwise it negates. It's like it just stops everything up if we're not watching every moment, aware of our own humanness, I guess.
Thank you.